Okay. Tape is rolling. So, Kurtis, the first question would be the weekend. I met a guy who was there, and from the Hamburg club scene, and he was all crazy. And he told me how 4,000 people went crazy seeing you on stage. And like, how does it feel? Like performing songs that were written 79, 80, and people in 2009 going crazy, you on stage. How does that feel? How is it to you?
Well, it feels great. You know, the honor, the glory, all of that stuff should go to God. But it really feels good inside, you know, personally, to see after all of these years how people still, you know, they love that old school hip hop stuff, and it's just amazing. I'm having the time of my life out here. It's a beautiful, beautiful scene. Just being in Germany, you know, the German people, I think it's more the fact that they are loyal, more loyal than I'd say the rest of Europe. They remember, they don't forget, and they support those old school artists who were back then, and you know, they still come out to the concerts. It's beautiful. I love it.
Do you have similar reaction in France?
Well, France is similar, but it's not as strong as Germany. Not as strong as Hamburg, Berlin, Frankfurt, you know, places like Darmstadt and Stuttgart. Man, they go crazy, man. It's just incredible. So I think France probably would be #2 in Europe for the old school hip hop. Well, for Kurtis Blow. And Kurtis Blow's #1 in Germany. I love the German people.
So can't put that in. Can't air that in France. They go crazy.
Well, I hate you.
I love you, France.
I heard that you were on stage with Smudo, and he came up, and I mean, you know who Smudo is. He's like in Germany, the first, the biggest. He's, if you talk about the #1 MC, maybe a little. Okay. How does it feel? How do you see like the German hip hop scene? How does that relate to you, and how do you see a guy like Smudo?
Oh, it's incredible, you know, just to see Smudo. I mean, I've always wanted to meet the guys from Phantasm Fear, and just to meet Smudo for the first time was incredible. He's a real cool cat, and you know, the German hip hop, man, is just incredible, man. You know, when I first started coming out here, I was the first rapper to come to Germany, and in 1980, and so when I first came over here, everyone was rapping in English when we first started, you know, and still to this day I get guys, German guys, oh, I learned English from listening to your song, The Breaks, you know, but we all rapped in English. But now the German rap scene has changed incredibly. You come to Germany, everyone is rapping in German. So I think that is just an incredible evolution. The fact that, okay, the culture is started in America, in the Bronx, but, you know, now countries around the world have embraced it and made it their own. So there is a German hip hop scene, you know, Sammy Deluxe, you know, Dandy Man, you know, Phantasm Fear, you know, rest in peace Falco, you know. So I've been following it for a long time, and I just think it's amazing. It's really, truly what the evolution of hip hop is about. To go to France and see them rapping in French. Go to Japan and see them rapping in Japanese now. You know, to go to Spain and see them rapping in Spanish. It's incredible. It's really, really heartwarming.
Okay. Back in the day, that's why I wanted to come back. Also, what I heard, that you were teaching everybody breakdancing backstage up on the Ostsee this weekend. That you were also like in DJ. I think graffiti, maybe not. I don't know if you also were spraying and tagging. So like, do you believe like really in the unity of all the 4 disciplines of hip hop? Is that the thing that goes together, or is just artificially packaged together to sell it?
I think they all go together, because it's part of the culture. When you say culture, culture is something it's a way of life for people. So everything within that way of life is part of the culture. So the music we listen to, it's hip hop music or James Brown, you know, breakdance music, old funk, you know, 70s, like Baltic Soul. Then there is the clothes we wear. We dress differently. You know, our hats are backwards, we wear our jeans, you know, our Air Nikes, you know. The dance we do is breakdancing, you know, b-boying. Very, very important part of hip-hop. You know, the art we look at, you know, the aesthetics, the beauty of the art. You know, we love our graffiti. It's just so colorful, but it's different, and it's all part of hip-hop. So, I mean, all of these things play an important role. So they are together. Yes, they are together. And you know, how could we ever listen to the music without the DJ? You know, so he's like the focal point of hip-hop. He controls the music, he controls the playlist, he controls the tempo, he controls the lights, the ambiance, you know. And he hired and fired the MCs in the beginning. You know, he was the boss, you know. Yo, Joey, yo, you can't get on the mic tonight, you know. So that was his call. So, you know, you got to give the props up to the DJ, you know. And our spoken word, which is the most relative today, you know, when you talk about rap, you know, it's the focal point of hip-hop today. But back in the day, it was the DJ. But all of these things play together. They all are intertwined, and, you know, from the moment you wake up in the morning, you're doing something within your culture. You know, you turn on the radio to listen to your music, or, you know, you have to wash up, but then you get dressed, and what clothes do you wear is your hip-hop gear. So, I mean, everything we do is part of our culture, which leads us to the other part. Religion is a very important part of culture, whether you believe in God or not, or let's say spirituality.
Let's come to this point. Mm-hmm. Like in the beginning, or maybe even before talking about religion, maybe talk about like 77, what happened in 77. Was that relevant also for the outcome and really the commercial and cultural breakthrough that the hip-hop movement had in 79, 80 when you came up with your first single?
Yes, it was very, yeah, it was important, very important to the success and the longevity, the birth, creation of hip-hop. Even before 77, but I'll go back to 70, but we all started in like 1972, and hip-hop was this incredible culture 7, 8 years before the first record came out, you know, Sugar Hill Gang and Rapper's Delight. But in 77 was really, really a good year. And it's good you say this because, you know, during that year, man, there was an energy just spreading all around the 5 boroughs of New York City. I'm talking Manhattan, the Bronx, Queens, Brooklyn, Staten Island. I mean, everybody was into this new thing called hip-hop and was so hot. As a matter of fact, I remember one DJ, his name was DJ Hollywood. He was so hot that he got a job at the Apollo Theater, playing music, DJing in between the live acts that were performing. Now, he was so hot that the crowd, 1,500 people, 2,000 people, would come to the Apollo to see him, not the acts. So in between the acts, he's throwing on a record, hey, this is DJ Hollywood. I'd like to welcome everybody to the world-famous Apollo Theater, and I know I got to make it bad. And then he just proceed to rock the house, you know, and everybody's jumping, and it's just like going, because he had all these routines that everybody knew, you know, like everybody scream, say ho, all of that stuff came from DJ Hollywood. So, the Apollo, wow, was so hot during that time. I remember a band came there one night, the Fatback Band, and they played, and they saw DJ Hollywood doing this thing in between the acts, and they went home and did their homework. And a couple of years later, they came out with the first rap song, which was called Personality Jock by King Tim III, which was a guest appearance on a Fatback Band record. So, you know, Hollywood in 1977, when he got that job, that was like, wow, hip hop really growing and getting ready to boom, go boom. And everybody knew it, everybody felt it. We felt that energy, that spirit of hip hop in 77.
That was even one of the questions, even like in 1980 when you really, well maybe could otherwise around, like later on when first, like Sugar Hill Gang, did you knew that they went to make a record out of the songs? They were casting a group together, or were you just in the radio said, oh, the thing is on and there's a record out, and how did you receive this song?
Yeah, well, when I first heard Rapper's Delight, for me, it was the most incredible thing to hear something that I had been doing for 6, 7 years on the radio. It's like, wow, we made it, you know. Now we have the opportunity to make records as well. So I owe them a lot because actually I was in the studio when the record came out. Because that record was so hot, gave me the possibility to even approach record companies and say, here's a rap song, will you sign this kid, Kurtis Blow? And, you know, so we went to 22 different labels, 22, in December of 1979. And nobody liked the record but 2 people. Everybody hated it, but 2 people. The first guy who liked it, his name was Corey Robbins. He was A&R director for Panorama Records. And so he liked it, and he took it up the flagpole to his bosses, and they said, no, no, no. So I didn't get a record deal. Corey Robbins, he quit and went off and formed his own record label called Profile Records. And then 3 years later, he signed his first rap group, Run-D.M.C. So that's Corey Robbins.
The guy who was a
producer. So the other guy who liked the song was an English fellow from London, Mercury Records, the A&R director. His name is John Staines. And he liked the song. Hey, we can recoup this record in 6 months. Let's sign him up. So I signed a record deal in London, by the way. So I was a UK artist first. And my records came back to America as an import. And that's how I became successful. But I was a foreigner in my own country. But it's because of the Sugar Hill Gang and the popularity of that Rapper's Delight record, you know. I mean, I remember when it came out in 1979, the summer of 1979, it was like every car, every bus, every train, every cab, every radio, every boom box, everyone was playing this song every hour, 24 hours a day for about a good 6 months, man. Incredible, incredible song. Incredible group too, as well. Thank you, Sugar Hill. But there were a lot of other cats who didn't like Sugar Hill.
There's another question. Like, also, like for you, maybe that's a mistake with the breaks, because you told me you went to England, the thing came out. Were you sure, like this English Mercury fellow, that the thing could recoup within 6 months and make you the first superstar rap?
Well, yeah, that was the whole deal. You know, the deal I signed with them was that, okay, you put out one song, then if you sell more than 30,000 copies, then you can make another song. And if that song sells more than 50,000 copies, then you can do a CD, an album, a whole album. So I was like, oh, great. The first song sold not 30,000, but 370,000. And the second song was The Breaks, and that was the first certified gold rap song. So we scored, and you know, I was blessed and fortunate, you know, that I was around at the right time where people really, really accepted the song, and the first artist signed to a major label, which means I was the first to tour the United States and Europe, first to come to Europe. And being signed to a major label means that we have offices in every major city around the world. So I was doing the promo, the first cat flying to Japan, the first to come to Europe, you know, Belgium and Paris and London and Berlin and Hamburg and on and on and on, every city. And it was set up when I got to the office from my record company, they had all the press. So I was doing every magazine, every newspaper, every radio station was coming by. I was going to TV shows and doing all the promo. And it's been documented, you know. Truly, Kurtis Blow's the first one to come and bring hip-hop to Europe. So that's my claim to fame, and I was fortunate to be around at the right time and signed to Mercury and signed to Phonogram, which was like the big arm of the law, I call them. And you know, I was very, very fortunate and it was documented, man. You go back and get those magazines and find out. And it was wonderful, you know, just a wonderful time in my life, you know, doing 1980 and 81 and just traveling around. Beautiful, great.
Maybe like two questions. What did it do to you, like you said? How did it affect your life? And how did you see the whole scene? Because as I can imagine, as I know, everybody was trying to find the same. You know, like
right.
Somebody was selling 370 copies the first, within short time, everybody was going crazy.
Right.
So how did it affect you? How did it affect the whole scene you were in?
Well, it affected me, again, you know, I was 19 years old. As a young kid, teenager, you know, growing up in the ghetto from Harlem. And it was just amazing. You know, I never really traveled outside of Harlem until 1980. So for me, I got the chance to go to, you know, wow, go to London. And I get off the plane and there's Debbie Harry waiting for me. And she's got all these cameras there. And I'm like, oh my God. Superstar. No, it was just wonderful, man. It's the best time of my life. You know, just being there first. That's the true meaning of a pioneer, is to be first at something, you know? And that indeed I was. So I just say thank God, you know, Gott sei Dank. Und you know, how did it affect everyone else? I mean, well, I actually don't like to, you know, toot my own horn, as they say, or brag about myself, but, you know, it was very important for me as a rapper, me as a pioneer of hip-hop, to do well on stage and in interviews. So I had to be articulate, you know, fairly intelligent. Thank God I went to college, you know, so I know a little bit of grammar and a little bit of English. I'm not great, but getting back to the stage, being live on stage was so very, very important because I was the first cat. People were coming to the shows to see, what is this thing, hip-hop? Yeah, we heard this Rapper's Delight, this Kurtis Blow guy, and what is this hip-hop? So they come to the show to see hip-hop for the first time. And if it wasn't good, then they would not continue to support it. So thank God I had the experience in playing in all the clubs and playing with Grandmaster Flash and you know, being at the block parties and knowing how to rock a crowd, knowing how to analyze your audience, and crowd response was one of the most important things in the early days of hip hop, was because it set us apart from all the other bands, all the other R&B singers, the disco singers. They never really used a lot of crowd response, and that was our thing. So I studied Cab Calloway and DJ Hollywood. DJ Hollywood and Eddie Chiba, LaBuck Starsky, those guys in New York were the DJs before me that were masters at the crowd response, so I had a lot of their routines. But Cab Calloway was really important for me, studying his stuff, the hidey hidey ho and all of that, you know, and getting people to answer back, because that's fun, and that's what they remember. And one thing I got early in the game was the fact that, you know, I'm a rapper, yes, I'm an MC, yes, but that means you're an entertainer. When you make records, and after those records are hits, then you go out to do shows, you're an entertainer. Your thing is to entertain. You want to make sure people leave your concert feeling good inside. I've always tried my best to do that with my live shows. So that's why I have a lot of crowd response. It's the interaction between me and the crowd and making them a part of the show. And they feel good when they're a part. You know, when we can get that one-on-one, say ho, say ho, 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 say ho, 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 say ha, ha, ho, you know, keep it going, you know, say ooh, ah, scream, party, you know. I mean, do that for about a minute straight, and then the audience is yours. They're your friends, because we're together. And you can go back and hit those things again and again and again throughout the show. And you will be successful that way as well.
Maybe let's talk about the guys not too much embracing it. Like, as I could imagine that, like, self-confident black movement coming up from the ghettos, you said, from Harlem, from the Bronx, people who were supposed to be gang bangers or drug dealers or just people not really integrated in mainstream society. Who were the antagonistic parts? Who were the people who were trying to criticize hip-hop? Like maybe from the black, from the white society, who were these forces?
Well, our biggest critics in hip-hop in the early days were basically singers, disco singers, because we proposed a threat. See, when hip-hop came out, disco was the #1 thing. And everybody was going disco crazy. You know, YMCA and Donna Summer and Patrick Jovay, and, you know, it was their world and their time. So to see another movement come up and propose a threat to their record sales, because normally disco really didn't sell that much. But then hip-hop started coming in, and the people really embraced it and started buying the records. So we were selling like the old R&B singers, the soul singers in the 60s and the early 70s, right? So we were a threat to disco, and also a threat to soul music, African-American music, you know, like the Michael Jacksons and the, you know, the Tina Marie's, the Rick James, the Confunction, Cameo, you know, Kool and the Gang, Gap Band, that type of thing. There was always competition. And they always looked at us as the opening act. Oh, let's get us a rapper and be the opening act. And pretty much in the early days, that's what it was about. But then as, you know, the times went on, we became headliners, and we became, you know, having more CDs. You know, about my third, fourth album, I couldn't be an opening act anymore. You know, it's just, you know, not right. So, I guess the tension and the competition between R&B artists and soul singers and disco was the most thing where we got our most criticism from. Yeah.
What was it like? They're not playing instruments and stealing our music. What was the point? So they're not really part of tradition of the nice, of the big black Afro-American.
I mean, I've heard it all from, oh, it's only a fad. It's not gonna last. It's not gonna last. It's only be around for a little while. Oh, it's not real music. Lionel Richie from the Commodores said this one. It hurt me so bad. He said, rappers only rap because they can't sing. And then I started singing after that. But all kinds of stuff like that. It's not real music. You know, there's no talent. Oh, anybody could rap, you know. It's just, you know. But I've heard it, and it reminded me a lot of rock and roll when rock and roll first started out. You know, how the parents really hated it and don't listen to that, just turn that music down, you know, that type of stuff. So in every generation, there's always the kids coming up with something new.
I read, maybe also referring to church and to the spiritual element behind it. Like I read one article that you were performing, I think in Harlem, in front of a church, or the house next to a church, and one reverend came and wanted to stop you performing in the house next door. Is it true?
Wow.
How did like the whole, also the religious part of the black society react to hip hop?
I really don't remember too many problems coming from the religious side. I've always thought that hip hop was really spiritual myself. That's my personal opinion. Again, we get the crowd response from the churches. I mean, that comes from, you know, the preachers say, amen, amen, you know, can I get a witness? You know, all of that comes from churches. So, you know, we have a close-knit connection. Whether both sides realized it or not is another story. But it's my opinion that we are very, very close. And spirituality basically is the fight of good and evil within oneself. So, you know, God is the creator. He created hip-hop. Well, like I said, again, you know, there is a big spirituality in hip-hop. And, you know, people like Bam and Eric B. and Rakim who brought Islam into hip-hop, and Bam who's bringing, you know, spirituality into hip-hop. It's so very connected. It's just like the evolution. It's like, okay, I'm an MC, then I became a rapper. Okay, but then after that, there's so many other things that I could do. You know, there's the field of communication is so relative to hip hop. That's why I say, you know, like a rapper can become a journalist. He can become a broadcaster, go on radio. He can become a writer, journalism. They can be a public speaker. A rapper is an orator. You know, they can get into politics and become a politician. Or they can become a reverend, a preacher. It's all the spoken word, you know. It's all connected, and it's all evolution. Whether we choose to see it or not, that depends on us and our minds and our, you know, like I say, Bam Bambaataa is a visionary. He can see the future. It's so bright. You know, it's so apparent to him because he just has that kind of visionary mentality. So it's just like I say, you know, it's evolution. It's just the different steps that we take that are possible that we can take from our being in hip hop.
Like today we heard about at the sound check. You also played Grandmaster Flash, The Message. I would say like one of the first songs that brought in a certain kind of change or different attitude towards hip hop. And as I read, because back in the day I was just listening, but I wasn't really analyzing what's really going on. That was hardly embraced even by rock magazines and also white rock fans, not getting too much into hip hop, suddenly embracing it and seeing, oh, it's critical, it's got a rocky attitude. How did you embrace it, or how did you react to the song?
Well, I thought it was an incredible song. When I first heard it, I was driving in my car with my wife, and I almost crashed. I almost had a bad accident. And I had to pull over and listen to this song. And I remember Frankie Crocker playing this song, and I said, oh my gosh, they are going to be so big with this song here. And there was a little jealousy because, you know, we still had the competition thing, and I had sort of a similar record called Tough that was released during the same time. And actually, a lot of people don't know this, but you know, a lot of people would say that motivated them to do the message, but you know, it was just an incredible song, and maybe the greatest hip hop song ever. It's a very good contender to Rapper's Delight in the breaks.
Other songs that you find relevant, I would like White Lines, I would like to talk about a little later, but maybe songs that brought up the scope. What about the Badass Planet Rock, when he came up with the Kraftwerk sample? How did you react to that?
Oh, I thought it was an incredible song as well, a trendsetter song. And you know that song came out the same year as The Message. So in the same year, those two songs were released, and they were very close. I don't know which one came out first, but I know that, you know, it was difficult, you know. See, everyone had their own year. In '79, it was Sugar Hill Gang with Rapper's Delight. '80 was me with The Breaks. But then after that, you know, those two guys came out with those two songs in the same year. It was 1982, I believe. And wow, I could just see, you know, it being such a big, huge song. As a matter of fact, it started a whole trend of production after that as well. You know, everybody had to get into that electro funk, we call it, with Arthur Baker and the production of you know, the up-tempo electronic, you know, almost techno hip hop early in the 80s is a big trend-setting song. Yeah.
I think we shooting with her was Roxanne Shanté. I was trying to get a lady inside, like the Funky 4+1. How do you refer to that? How do you get her? Do you have an idea, or like Roxanne's Revenge, for example, a song? Was that important to you in a way?
Well, Roxanne Shanté was very important because she was one of the females that came out, and other than Sha Rock, who was before her from the Funky 4+1 More, women never really got respect in the game. I know we had the Sequence Girls, but I'm talking about credibility as far as the Bronx is concerned, the South Bronx. Women never really got that until Roxanne Shanté came out with her raps, and she really had a flow. She had skills, and she really could rap. I never really agreed with the content and dissing that whole thing in the battle rap. I never really supported battle rap. I never did like that. So Roxanne and I were at odds back in the day. But I love her, and she's a professor now. She's a doctor now. So we have to call her Dr. Roxanne Shanté. Hey, Doc.
Run-D.M.C, maybe middle of the 80s. Like you also said, like we were talking about Run-D.M.C earlier. I didn't even know that you were so close to them. And maybe, like, how do you experience that? And also about talking about Def Jam, talking about the brothers, also like Joseph and Russell Simmons, like you all being together, and suddenly Run-D.M.C comes up. He starts a record company. How did that happen? And how did this whole thing, I think 84, 85...
Yeah, that's a whole book and a whole movie in itself.
in a nutshell, sure.
But, you know, Run and I go way back to the actual 70s, around the same time. 77 is when I met Russell Simmons in college, and we became college buddies. I actually got him involved and convinced him to take a look at this DJing hip-hop thing, you know. So Russell was convinced because during that time I was in high school. When I was in high school in '76, my high school was on the college campus that Russell went to. And he's a couple of years older than I am. And so they had parties every Thursday in the lounge, in the college lounge. So the high school students, we would go and crash the party. So one day I went and crashed the party and met Russell because I recognized him. He used to go to these clubs downtown and do the Brooklyn Hustle, which is a very strange kind of like hardcore hustle. And you know the hustle, the dance, the hustle. So I remembered him because I used to watch him do this Brooklyn Hustle. I never could do it, you know. It was like kind of strange for me. So I went up to him and said, man, didn't you do the Brooklyn Hustle down at Nell Gwynn's? I used to watch you all the time. Yeah, that's me, that's me. Well, we met each other, and I told him, you know, I was trying to become a DJ. I told him I was a DJ, and I was trying to come to college in 2 years and come to City and major in communications. But what happened was, he said, well, when you come, I'll be here and I'll be set up and I'll introduce you to all the DJs here and you can get on WCCR, which is a college radio station, and that's what I wanted to do. And Reggie Wells, which is like a hot DJ, he was going to City, and he was the program director of WCCR. And I wanted to get with Reggie, so I wanted to, you know, become like him, a DJ. And so Russell said, yeah, when you come back in 2 years, all right, I'll introduce you, young fella. I'll introduce you to everybody and everything. So what happened was I got kicked out of the High School of Music and Arts, and my grades were so good that the guidance counselor said, look, I'm not going to send you to any other high school. I'm just going to let you take your GED test, and you'll jump into college a year early if you pass the test. So I was like, wow, okay, great. So I studied for it, passed the test when I was 16, got into college at 17, a year early. So the next year, here I am at registration. I met Russell. Wow, you're here a year early. Wow, you really serious? I said, yeah, I got my GED, man. Look, I'm in college now, 17, a year early. So he said, okay, all right, you're serious, all right. So he introduced me to a lot of cats around the school, and that's where, you know, I started DJing, and the college became, you know, we had our whole crew. He introduced me to the fellas. There was about 12, 14 of us, and we called ourselves the City College Force. And we used to go to the parties, and we were in the crowd, and rocking the crowd, and, you know, being a real force at the parties. And that's how I got my start. I was their DJ. And I was the youngest one, and that's basically it. So Russell and I opened up our own club out in Queens, and we called it the Night Fever Disco. And I DJ'd there for 2 years and became Queens' #1 DJ. Because I learned in my communications class that this is how you make it in broadcasting. You know, since there's so much competition, what you do is go out to the suburbs or the boondocks, a smaller market, and get a track record, experience. And then you come back and become #1 in that small market, then go to the big market and say, look, I have track record here. you know, give me a job. I'm #1 in this market, #1 in that market. So I said, oh, okay. So I went to Russell. I said, we need to open up a club out in your neighborhood, you know, out in Hollis, Queens. And so we did. And with hype and everything, I became Queens' #1 DJ and came back. That's my track record. I'm #1 in Queens. So, you know, I went back to the Bronx and Harlem, and that's how my popularity got, you know, got across. And finally got a record deal in 1979 and made Russell Simmons my manager in 1980. I was his first artist. We traveled around the world and debated. We had so many debates about hip hop, what's real hip hop, and you know what's you know fake and phony and all of this stuff. And so we created a dynasty. I taught his younger brother how to rap, and he formed his own group called Run-D.M.C. The rest is history.
What would you say, like, the whole Def Jam from, I don't know, 84, 85 till end of the 90s, how relevant was it for the whole, really the breakthrough of getting into, like you said, the smaller markets, see the markets, the white punk market, the rock market, the I don't know, the black radical market?
Well, you know, that whole time was actually the time where Russell really reaped a lot of the benefits from being a label. And when we started the management company and we started, you know, our small crew, and then Run-D.M.C. came on board, and then I had the Fat Boys. Larry Smith was the bass player. He played on the breaks. He became the producer of Run-D.M.C. and Houdini came on. And then we got LL Cool J, Eric B. and Rakim. So everyone wanted to start. That's when everyone wanted to be a part of, you know, Rush and Rush Management and Def Jam. And so the benefits started happening later on, 85 through 90, when the record sales started selling records and it became a business and it became like a machine, you know. We were the outlet for the hip-hop nation. Like the Sugar Hill records were before us, and Sylvia Robinson, Joe Robinson. And it was just amazing, you know. Top of the world. We were like Motown. Russell was Berry Gordy.
Sehr geehrte Gäste, wir möchten Sie schon jetzt darauf aufmerksam machen, dass im Zuschauerraum sämtliche Bild- und Tonaufnahmen aus urheberrechtlichen Gründen untersagt sind. Vielen Dank für Ihr Verständnis.
You're welcome, Peterson.
Maybe the Beastie Boys. How did you react to them? Or was it? Did you consider that really being a hip hop, or was it just a thing finding punk guys and bringing them into this wave that just functioning and making money?
No. The Beastie Boys were real. The Beastie Boys were a real concept that was created by Russell. But it wasn't successful in the beginning. I remember being out on tour with the Beastie Boys, and they got booed every night. The crowds, the African-American crowds, did not like them at all. And it's mainly because they came out with a big penis on stage. That was their big prop, and a big old OE bottle, and you know, it's just, the people were not ready for them. But persistence overcomes resistance, and they stuck with it. And finally, you know, after years, people really started to like them and buy their records, yeah. So, big ups to the Beastie Boys. They stuck with it.
And
Okay.
maybe like 85, you had an album out, America, which really also like other than breaks and then other hits that you had before, was really also focusing on social elements that were in disharmony. What were the points on the agenda that got you saying, okay, I gotta put out an album talking about the situation of our country?
Well, you know, it was like being a college student and taking all the history classes that I've taken, and getting into politics and being sort of like a militant midget. I always had a thing for my lyrics being conscious, and songs like this. There's a song I did in the album before that called You Make Me Nervous, and it's just talking about, you know, a lot of political stuff. It's abstract, really abstract, but it had a really good meaning. So for me, just having music or songs or lyrics with some kind of meaning, something more than just, you know, party, throw your hands in the air. There's more to Kurtis Blow than just, you know, rocking the crowd, rocking the party. And I care, you know, I care for my country. I care for my family. I care for my neighborhood, you know. I care for the people who can't care for themselves, the people who need help, you know, and that's who I am, you know. That's where my heart is, and it never really was about trying to make as much money as I possibly could make. It was always basically trying to help somebody else not die, you know? So that's who I am, and that's basically, you know, you can find out more about who I am by listening to my music, so.
Like the music, like Public Enemy, they got even more explicit. You say lots of the content in your songs. Sometimes it's very like symbolic. Or sometimes you even talk openly about it.
Right.
But like a sentence, even Public Enemy, it took them, the first record was different, but then the second one takes a nation of millions. That was the point, with really fight the power, like really bring it to a point that people didn't do before, even in other sorts of Afro-American music before. It was never that explicit and never that outraged against the powers, like the white supremacy in US America. How
Right.
did you react to that music? Could you understand it? Were you with them, or did you say that is too, or you can't deal with our problems in that kind of way? What was your position?
No, I mean, I definitely related to a lot of, you know, what Public Enemy was about. They actually said a lot of things that I wanted to say but couldn't say because of my whole image and who I was, trying to be the all-American rapper, you know, sort of say, good guy. Very serious, political, but at the same time, I'm still a good guy, you know. I'm a patriot. So when I heard Public Enemy, it released a lot of the tension that I had built inside of me that I always wanted to get out. And it's incredible. It's just the power of hip-hop. To see it happen is really something special. Like, for instance, you know, this power of hip-hop, the power of hip-hop that we have, man, is so incredible. Like, for instance, when I was in Afghanistan, I've told you about the tour. I did a tour in 2000, like Bob Hope, and touring all the bases, the American bases in the Middle East, like 17 different countries we went to. So we were in Pakistan. I was talking to one of the guards at the U.S. Embassy, and he was telling me that there's a rap group in Palestine, Palestinian rap group. The raps that they make about their people, the plight of their people. The songs they make are the number one requested songs on the Israeli radio station. That's like, wow. That's the power of hip hop. That's incredible, you know? So, Public Enemy opened this door for the voice of the people to come out and really, really express themselves, their true, innermost, real feelings. So, Public Enemy was the beginning of keeping it real.
Maybe one one more question before because we're gonna bring the car. Maybe 2 questions, and then I think we're almost done. But Barbara asked me to ask you some questions for them also. Different setting. Maybe we can do that. But maybe this one, like another element was then short after is like Ice-T, NWA, the whole like California movement. Or Ice-T was even from Newark, and Afrika Islam was in there from New York. But the thing, not to be like nationalistic or black nationalistic or fighting the power, but like in the book I read, it's like the politics of getting mine. What is the impact of this gangsterism, which is similar, like you said, people in fear of, oh, down the Compton and South Central Los Angeles, all the gangsterism, but at the same time, go and get the record, I want to hear that. What is the impact of that music?
Well, it was, bottom line, it was very powerful when it first came out, when they first started. And Ice-T was quoted, I remember hearing him in an interview, and it's like, you know, gangster rap is like the rapper, the MC, just taking all of his flows, all of his lyrics, all the content, and wrapping it all up into one big, I don't give a F. You know, so it's like, when we first started, Kurtis Blow, Sugar Hill Gang, you know, we had a code of ethics because we knew we were pioneers. We knew we were first. So in order for this thing to be successful, we had to keep it clean. You know, we had to have integrity. We had to make the kind of songs that would play on the radio. So a lot of it was a sacrifice. Being from the ghetto, knowing what I know in my mind, knowing what I've learned in college, you know, I had to tone it down. I had to sacrifice. Next comes the next wave, the Run-D.M.C, Public Enemy, Eric B. and Rakim. Now they have the opportunity to say a little bit more, to do a little bit more because of the sacrifices we made. Now you have everybody listening to what you have to say, hip-hop. Hip-hop is the #1 thing on the planet. Now you can do what you want to do. Now you have the open door to wrap it up and rap like you don't give a, because it's just the next wave. So it's progression, evolution. Personally, I particularly, I'm different, but that doesn't mean that they don't have the right or the opportunities to go out and make records. And I like a lot of gangster rap. I like a lot of the songs they actually make. Like, you know, the Ice Cube Today Was a Good Day. There's a lot of good stuff out there, you know. A Lady of Rage, she's got an incredible flow, you know. Snoop Dogg, I love his voice, you know. You know, Dog Pound, Corrupt. I love Corrupt. He's incredible, incredible rapper. You know, cats like that. I mean, you know, even Eminem for the most part. You know, he's an incredible, awesome rapper with an incredible flow. Very fast, very witty, and he can sing. So there's a lot of talent out there, in gangster rap, and I support them, even though I have been quoted in saying that I don't. But I don't know, I just think people get things mixed up, you know, just because I say, look, I've recorded over 250 rap songs and I've never used profanity. But that doesn't mean I hate you. I'm different, I'm just different, we're different. So, you know, that's all it is.
Maybe last question before we gotta bring the car is, like, if you see, like, now we almost hit the end of the 80s. If you see, like, now today, America's got a black president. People even call him the hip-hop president. How relevant is the music, very from, like you said, bring it, how relevant is hip-hop? How much of a BAM is in Obama? how much of a Kurtis Blow was in Obama and the politics that are ruling America for now, I don't know, almost half a year?
Well, let's put it this way. Bottom line, hip-hop is the #1 music in the world. #1 most influential music in the entire world. Maybe 10 or 15 years ago, it was country and western. But now it's hip-hop. And whether you like it or not, we all live in a hip-hop generation. So whatever it is, whether it's politics, whether it's advertisement, whether it's the family at home, whether it's the church, whether it's, you know, the art that we look at, whatever art gallery, if you use hip-hop as a fusion within that particular situation, whatever it is, you'll be successful. Only because this is our time. We're in the hip-hop generation. So if you're a politician and you start rapping, everybody's gonna listen. If you're a politician and you use hip-hoppers to help you with your campaign, you're gonna be successful. If you do it right, if you use integrity. Again, we have to use integrity because there's a lot of hip-hop out there. There's a lot of different kinds, a lot of different forms. But if it's used as a tool to get closer to the people, then you'll be very successful in any genre of situation, any form of life, any parts of life. It's just normal. It's a no-brainer. Hip Hop Church.